Hey everybody, I'm Anna Huthmaker from Huthmaker Violins, and this year I'm proud to be a volunteer for the Violin Society of America's virtual convention. And one of the things they're doing this year, they're starting a new tradition, and I'm really excited about it. We're doing a session on the business of doing business, and each year they're going to focus on a business, the story of its history, its growth, its business practices, with special emphasis on what we can learn as musicians that are operating in the music business industry. So you're probably wondering what that has to do with the countryside out here in beautiful Anniston, Alabama. Well, this year, our very first business that we're going to learn from is the Howard Core Company. They've been in operation for almost 40 years, and it all started right here. They lived in this beautiful antebellum home, and they operated here in this Quonset hut. Now, they were in New York for a few years before this, but this is basically, Anniston is where the heart of the entire company has happened. We're going to talk to Alex all about the growth of the business and any lessons that he can teach us. And I want to just say thank you to the VSA for being so forward-thinking and for helping us grow and learn as music-based businesses. Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being part of our session on the business of doing business. And Alex, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for coming over and saying hello.
Well, the cool thing is we live, 2 hours away from you. So getting here was actually quite easy. And we should tell everybody that we are sitting this far apart so that we can socially distance and do this without our masks on. We want to be safe, but at the same time,
we can breathe and speak.
We can breathe and speak, both of which are important for sure.
No doubt.
So the whole purpose of this is actually to really look at how the business was started and how it grew and all the amazing things that have happened. And I'm going to tell all my favorite Howard Core stories at some point.
Bring them on.
But this is actually the first thing I want to talk to you about, and that is, how old were you, or do you even remember when Howard Core was started by Howard and Myrna?
Oh, absolutely. I remember it very well. One day, Howard came home from work and said, I no longer have a job. Wasn't sure exactly what to do, but he's like, I know where to get things, and I know people that want those things. And so he literally started the company in our basement, and he would get things, store them in the basement, and just drive around and sell them, buy some more, do it again. And then got a little warehouse in Hauppauge, New York, just down the street from our house, and had that for less than a year. And I recall he went to Atlanta, because NAMM was in Atlanta. And he looked at the Atlanta Constitution, he was just looking at property, and this was back in the 70s, you had oil embargoes going on.
Right.
My mother just started playing tennis, and that's relevant because he looks at the Atlanta Constitution, he sees this southern plantation home, 30 acres of land with its own gas tank on it, and a tennis court. And then he looks at the price. He's like, huh. So next thing you know, we're living in Alabama, and we've been here ever since.
Well, and that's funny because, we have a saying in our family. I think a lot of families have the same saying: if mama ain't happy, nobody's happy. So if you're going to move your wife,
that's it,
all the way down south,
that's it.
Better give her a tennis court. So
no doubt.
I think that's awesome. So when you moved to Atlanta, when they moved to Atlanta,
yes, to Alabama.
To Alabama, yeah, that's right. Sorry,
okay.
So when you came to Alabama,
Yeah.
did you actually kind of grow up on the floor of the warehouse?
So, summers and evenings, there's definitely action. There was always a project today.
Well, and like Mom was saying, you were in this antebellum old home. Always something had to be done there too. So
yeah.
It was probably constant work. You actually said that Howard was a musician himself, and I don't think I realized that. What was his main instrument?
So cello. He loved the cello.
Really?
Yeah.
How did I not know that?
Yeah. And he was an assistant conductor in the Pittsburgh Symphony. And
Really?
Yeah.
I've known your family 30-something years, and to me, he was always Howard who ran Howard Core. I knew him as a businessman,
sure.
And I knew him as the person I called saying, "Can I please have some strings?" or whatever. But picturing him in front of a orchestra with the baton was really cool. So here's what I find super fascinating, and I want to know how this happened. I want to know if you actually know how it happened, and that is that, so we have a musician
Okay.
and who started this business
Yeah.
in his home.
Sure.
Now, the trajectory of Howard Core
Yeah.
Company is like this. It's unbelievable. Did he have business education? Did he go to college for business?
Not at all.
It was just
Yeah.
instinct?
Be a teacher and all. You know, he's a sharp person. I'm not just. I mean, really. You know, and he was the national sales manager for Tolchin Industries in the 3 years he was there with New York, and helped build that organization, and really learned a lot in that process. So it was a quick but intense study. Yeah.
Well, you know, I have a personal theory that in the music industry, we're all in the music industry, that if we come from a musical background, that it actually gives us a skill set that other people don't. Do you think that that served him well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I could speak the language of the customers. He understood their mindset, the passion that's involved. So, yeah.
So in the beginning, did he have like a mission? You know, these days we talk about mission statements and a reason to be for a corporation.
Oh yeah, he
Did
had a
have-
mission, all right.
What was his
Let's keep
mission?
food on the table and be able to stay in the home. I mean, it
That's
was
a good mission.
It was simple. I mean, it was, the joke always was they started the company on a shoestring, but if you ever asked Tom Core, it was a frayed shoestring.
Gotcha.
It was really, really tight.
And Tom
so,
is his brother, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And doesn't Tom go kind of all the way back with you guys?
When we moved to Alabama and kind of really started the company, if you will, New York was just getting out of the basement, and hey, you needed a little more warehouse space. Really, I don't recall employees other than Howard and my mother, just space. There might have been one person, but I don't recall. Alabama was different. Came here and hired all of 2 people.
Woohoo, big staff.
Jane Blackerby, who's still on staff today, and Tom Core, his brother, he recruited to get out of the paramedic field up in Columbus, Ohio. Said, come on down here, I need some help. Got a business I'm trying to make happen.
So let's talk for just a second about your mom, Myrna.
Sure.
So, because for anyone that's seeing this video, you know, this is a true family business for decades and decades. And I always knew Myrna as being someone that was really great friends with my mom. Now,
Absolutely.
if you're watching this, my mom is actually behind the camera manning another
Dixie's
camera.
running the
Dixie
show
Huthmaker.
over there.
And I have to just tell you very quickly something that I learned about your mom. For years, my mom would come and she'd be like, oh, we get to go visit Howard Core. I get to hang out with Myrna. I love Myrna. She's my friend. And I always had this idea that they were like just grand friends. So they really liked each other and respected each other. As the years have gone by, that exact conversation has come at me from women all over the music industry. Your mom was beloved. Let me tell you, I've talked to so many people.
I love
and
it, yeah.
and it's really neat. And the thing I actually wish that I could have asked her, because she's not with us anymore,
Sure.
and I would love to have known, was this what she signed up for? Because my mom, we're a family business, and my mom's always saying, this wasn't quite what I signed up for, you know, but was she a musician? Was she a business person?
So no, she was an English teacher. No, strictly a teacher, and so no business background. And was it what she signed up for? Absolutely not. Not even close. Yeah, she definitely made that comment over and over. I'd say not a week went by.
Really? This is why y'all like each other so much, Mom. So,
Yeah.
but obviously, somehow it worked, because by the time I came along and knew about the business, it was full on Howard and Myrna.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, it was Howard and Myrna from. Yeah. I mean, once it started, once we moved to Alabama, she was fully involved. I mean, she packed every box that went out of there for years. I mean, we're talking
Wow.
a decade plus. She had her yellow cards, and she would keep all the accounting on that. So she was doing the accounting, the filing, the packing. Again, when you have 4 people, you got to wear a few hats.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and they go late into the night. So
Right,
yeah.
right. All right, so
Yes.
Alex, you were in Alabama, you were doing your thing, helping the family, but somehow you ended up going out west. What's it they say? Go west, my son.
Go west, my young man.
California
That's
must
it.
have called you.
Oh.
What happened? How did you end up out there?
I'd gone to school here in Alabama, very small private school, Washington Lee, all guys school, and just needed to get out a little more. So that
I can understand
that seemed
that.
like getting out.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but you were studying business, right?
So yes, I grew up around a business, and I was not going to school for this business, but I was going to school, I thought international banking, some type of, I can give you a little bit of color to this. Early 80s, if you recall, I remember it like it was yesterday because the struggles that Howard was going through. The interest rates went through the roof, and again, we were working with that shoestring that was frayed, and having to get lending and all that. And when the interest rates went up and the challenges that he was going through, it was significant. I mean, very significant. So I witnessed that. And I absorbed it as a kid. I guess you just do. And I'm trying to think. In the banking industry always seemed very interesting to me, and just business generally. How you have to take in so many factors, and so it was intriguing to me just to be in the business world. Didn't know exactly what channel things would go, but that was the idea.
So the plan wasn't when you went to college to go to college and come back
Not
and
at
run a
all.
business.
It was the furthest thing from the plan.
Gotcha. Well,
Yeah.
so, and I have to tell you, so, all right, and at this point in the late 80s, y'all were still out at the house?
So yes, they were at that, and again there was a green building, a little block building that was built, and then there was an addition built to it, but it was out on that property at the plantation home for all that time. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Gotcha. So I have to tell you, the first time I ever got to come visit the Howard Core business was actually the first time I ever met you.
Oh.
And you were brands making new back in town.
Okay.
And I remember walking in, and I didn't know you at all. I didn't know anything about you. And you looked very California. I just don't know another way to put it. I remember you walking out, and you were all tan, which already is, in the South. I don't know. It just,
Sure.
And you were dressed nicely. You had like a pink eyeside shirt. I remember looking at you, and you were all blonde, and me going, "Oh, he's in Anniston, Alabama. I just don't know if this is going to work." Now, I did not realize that you had grown up here, part of your life, and but it was so funny because I remember looking at you, and back then, Anniston was an army base and 2 McDonald's. Like there was really not much city life, and I remember just thinking, "Oh, bless your heart, you came from the West Coast,
Sure.
movie stars, sunshine, palm trees."
Yeah.
And I also remember that you had a clipboard and you were doing paper and pen stuff.
Oh yeah.
And that was, I think, right before you started really stepping in and changing things at Howard Core. Do you remember this time?
I remember it like it was yesterday. All these things are ingrained. Absolutely.
So, before, because I did jump ahead of myself a little bit, because before that, weren't you like wholesaling diamonds, doing something very sexy like that?
Among a few other things.
You were like doing your thing,
Yeah.
So, how did you end up coming back? How did you end up going from diamonds back to Anniston?
From there, I went into real estate because my favorite professor at USC was a real estate professor in a real estate class, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. And so I went to Marina Del Rey and was in a real estate company, became vice president there. And this was back late 80s, early 90s. Bankruptcies were happening, and it was a tough time in real estate. But I had a client, and they said, "I need someone like you to help me run our businesses." I was like, "What?" I was mid-20s, and these people were powerful, pop icons, and had all kind of business activity. Daily, they were approached with every business venture you can imagine. So for the next 4.5 years, I got to sit in a chair and listen to the proposition. Hey, this is what we want to do. This is the money we want to invest, and listen to them. Meanwhile, they had other companies running that I was helping assist with, and so I got exposure to all kind of businesses.
I was going to say, this sounds like an education you can't possibly get in college.
You couldn't. I could take the college and just 3 months of this, but I had almost 5 years, and I was traveling private planes all over the world, treated like royalty. I got to see. I talk about attorneys, but the highest powered attorneys on the planet, accountants, dealing with public companies, dealing with private companies, dealing with wineries, professional basketball teams, multimedia companies, precious metal refineries. I mean, you name it. We were involved. And
So I hadn't completely lost my mind when I looked at you in that warehouse and went, Anniston, West Coast. So this is a pretty big change.
Yeah.
So what made you leave the Hollywood high life?
I saw, as clear as we're sitting here, what I felt was the right decision of how to go forward with the business. I gave the advice, and the owners were emotional and would go a different direction. And so at the end of the day, I could give the advice, but I couldn't make the final decision. So, you can live with that for a while, but around that time, I got a phone call from Howard. And he's like, hey, I know you have no interest in this company at all, but I just let you know I might have to do something.
You sound like him.
And I remember sitting in my office in Las Vegas, and we actually he was early because he was 2 hours ahead. It was like 4 a.m. He was up early, and he caught me. It was like 4 a.m. because he knew I'd go to work out in Las Vegas. We were building out in the back, and so we'd start building at 3 a.m. before the sun and the heat. And I remember taking that call and hung up. And so I booked a flight that weekend to go back and see him. I hadn't seen my mother in some time, and I'd been away, and just to see. And what I saw was a company that, let's face it had Howard, my mother, Tom, Jane, and there was a packer at the time. My mother was no longer having to pack boxes at that time. So, so small little company, but had a great reputation from what I could see, a nice stable industry. And I was dealing with multimedia and this and that, and it's just like, wow, what happens in these walls, Howard, he's making the decision. Whatever happens, it's his decision,
Yeah.
And I mean, ultimately, if I were to go down that path, it could be my decision. That was the most appealing aspect of the whole thing. So that's how that transpired.
I can totally understand that. So here we are. We are in downtown Anniston, Alabama. This is where the Howard Core Company moved once they outgrew their home out at the plantation. This is also coincides with when Alex came and joined the company. Now, as you know, Alex is the son of Howard and Myrna. They're the founders of the Howard Core Company. And this right here is where I saw all the growth really start to take place. So join me now as I talk to Alex about the beginnings of his time with the Howard Core Company. All right, so we got you here. I have to tell you, it's really interesting to me, a couple of things. First of all, I have found personally that there are two kinds of people in the world. People that are really love working with other people but don't care if they make the decisions or not. And people that love working with other people but do want to make the decisions. And it's interesting because I would have never thought I was a person that wanted to make the decisions that I was. So I understand that in you completely, that because then you could truly make a difference.
That's, you do. I mean, and you're working towards something that you've got control over. For better or for worse, at least you can look in the mirror, why it happened that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So Howard's like, come on down. You're like, I'm coming on down. Maybe I'm naive, but it doesn't sound to me like it could have been all sunshine and roses. Because you come along with not only big ideas, but different ideas. So how did that work? Did you keep your mouth shut for a few years, or did you say, I'd like to do some things, and everybody went, fine? How'd that happen?
That's a great question. In retrospect, looking back, I'm not sure it could have gone any better than it did. And that's not throwing, a rosy picture over something that wasn't. Howard was the most accommodating mentor a person could ever ask for. Number one, he's knowledgeable. He had the knowledge. But he's patient. And I was dealing with a very empty set of information. I mean, I came in there, yes, I'd grown up, but did I really understand the business? Absolutely not. Had I now had a lot of experiences here that now I could start to get my head around what's happening in this building? Yeah, but I needed to learn it. And I remember the first day The first day, number one, my salary is 20 grand. Here's what your salary is. Okay? He said, Howard, you know I'm not here for this. I want to know, how do I learn this business? Just tell me what I got to do. And he didn't pause for very long at all. He goes, you're going to pick every order. That's what you're going to do. Couldn't have been better advice given to start. Now, that's not all I did, but that's what I did. Every order that came in that place from that day forward for years, I picked. And by picking the orders, if you pay attention, and I've taught this to our people since then, but if you pay attention, number one, who's the customer? Where are they? What are they ordering? What combinations are they ordering things? You can see habits. You can see things in this industry. I mean, you look, okay? It's just put those 4 strings together. Look at the combination. Cellos, it's often A&Ds are one direction, GC's another manufacturer, but over here, the violin, it's all, you start seeing things, you understand it, but from a business perspective, I put myself on the other end of this piece of paper and this package and the customer, and it's like, what do they want? If they order 10 things and we've only got 9 of them, but we don't have that one, they're obviously putting an instrument together. If I don't have the D string, can they put the violin together? No. So if we didn't have something, I would pick up the phone, call, I'd find out all the options that we have, and I would ask Howard, hey, we don't have this D string. I don't know when we're going to get it, but what would be a substitute for this? What would work? I don't care what the price is, what would work for the customer? And that's the next, what we started to do. And not that they hadn't done this before, but my mother would pick up the phone most of the time. Jane and my mother would answer the phones, and after a few months, my mother's like, "Oh my gosh, we're not having any mistakes." Number one, but number two, people are saying, "Gosh, thank you for sending whatever it was at no extra charge, and that really took care of what I needed for that day. I know that probably cost you money, but I was just doing it. I didn't care. I wanted the customer, when they got that package from Howard Core, to be satisfied."
Well, and it's so interesting to hear you say that, because when I was asking about whether or not Howard had a mission or, and that kind of thing, I never heard anyone from Howard Core Company say we're a customer-first company, a customer-forward company. However, that has been my experience as a customer for decades, and when I think back about it, I can literally, in 30 plus years of ordering everything, I can remember 3 mistakes. And if you ran out of something, you sent me something else. And so it is interesting that kind of mission did exist, even if it wasn't carved up on the wall somewhere.
We've not, when it's 4, 5, 6 people in a building, it's not like we need to engrave things and it's just what it is. It's in us.
Yes.
And I think I'm not saying Howard, Tom, my mother didn't want to do that, but I brought that extra bandwidth. I brought energy. More than anything, I brought energy, because learning something, I knew things were happening on a good foot, because it was rewarding to see the customer order again, that second time, and then they might add a little something extra.
Well, it's very impressive, because the learning curve, if you're not a violinist or a cellist, the learning curve's got to be fairly intense. You got to learn strings and parts and the difference between a Strad copy and a Winery copy and all this kind of stuff. So it's very impressive that you actually were able to do it and wanted to do it, and were that committed to it. So.
Again, I go back to having a mentor. I mean, Howard, any business trip, international, domestic, whatever, I travel with them, get to see customers firsthand, how they operate, the suppliers all over the world. I was just in a great position with someone that had the knowledge. It just opened the door up, and I was crazy not to take advantage of every opportunity.
Gotcha. Well, and I see that, but also my hat is really off to Howard and Myrna, because some of the most unbelievable business stories that are out there have to do with somebody coming from a completely unconnected business.
Sure.
And you did that, and you brought with that, you brought ideas that were probably really foreign to the music world in general. So, and this idea and the fact that they were open to it and you were open to it is the perfect storm. As far as looking out from the inside, looking in from the outside, perfect storm. So, but tell me if it was as difficult as it seemed about computerizing the business.
Oh my gosh.
Because we just recently computerized ours. The violin shop music industry, we're pretty old-fashioned. So.
Wow. Well, you mentioned earlier about with the clipboard and okay. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I remember it again, like it was yesterday. Tom on the phone. He had one of those portable phones to walk around the warehouse, and he would go down the aisle looking in the bin with the vendor. Oh yeah, give me 6 of these. Oh yeah, and give me a dozen of these. And that's what I walked into. And again, this is not mid-90s, .com, internet, all that stuff. I guess I didn't have an email address. I didn't have a computer. I had nothing. But I was not a computer whiz. I'm not a computer whiz at all. But with the slow growth, and again, we were not trying to grow. I was trying to learn the business and take care of the customer. Every day, that's all I was trying to do. Growth was not even on my mind. We were just trying to make a living, but I wanted to understand the business and make it happen. And the night started to get late. I mean, it's now midnight. I haven't picked all the orders. And so, and I knew the inefficiencies with some of the things we were doing. And I think, for us to be able to handle this and still take care of the customer, we've got to get some help. And the first thing seemed like a computer would help my mother with accounting. I mean, she's keeping all these records, and now that was getting to her. She couldn't hardly keep up. The ordering, all the things. Jane is processing, by hand, doing every invoice. And if we ran a sale, doing the calculations, I'm not saying, the workload started to get so much. And, certainly you can go out and hire people, but then you got to train them and all these things. And now computers were coming around, and there's technology out there. So I remember it, July 19th, 1999, we went live with our first computer day. The build up to that, getting all the items in the system, probably a year's worth of work to get it set up. Because I entered every item in myself, building those SKUs and kits and all that stuff, and I had to do that weekends, nights, whatever, when you could find the time. There wasn't a whole lot to begin with, so it was quite a deal. And then the prep when we went live, because you had to do double. Now she had to keep the cards because we didn't trust the computer at all.
That's the way it is at our shop.
And I don't know how many months we went with dual systems going. Yeah.
It's painful, isn't it?
Painful.
Well, let me tell you though, when it comes to advice for a business, when we got ready to do our first point of sale system and our first really computerizing everything, it was just the last 4 years, pretty recently.
Yeah.
I called you, and you gave me the best advice ever.
Wow.
And it's really cool because other music stores have called me to ask me about our POS, and I always say, my friend Alex said this, and I give you credit and I pass it along. And you said, when you do it, when you pull the trigger, you got to put everything in as perfectly from the very beginning as you can. Because going back and changing and editing and everything would be a complete and total nightmare.
Yeah.
So, and I just remember what amazing advice I thought that was, especially given the size of your inventory and the amount of SKUs you have.
Yeah.
So, thank you for that. First of all, it made a big difference.
I'm happy it helped. It's coming from experience. Yeah. And I never want to give you a bum steer. That's for sure. We want you to be successful. That's always the name of the game.
Well, and we have been, and thanks in part to you. So that's for sure. So with growth comes, the need for more space. So soon after Alex joined the business here in Anniston, they found themselves bursting at the seams and they needed to move. So what did they find? They found a school. And how perfect is a school? All these classrooms, places they can stack up cellos and violins and cases, and they moved. If you've ever moved your business, you know how difficult that is. You have to move and you have to be doing business while you're moving. So let's talk to Alex about that time in the history of Howard Core Company and find out what it was like to come move into a school. You said that growth wasn't on your mind at all. However, again, so everything from my perspective, I'm 2 hours down the highway from the outside looking in. You guys seemed to move every 5 years because you were outgrowing your building.
Oh my gosh.
So the first big move I remember, because I wasn't here for the move to downtown, but when you moved to the school.
Oh yeah.
Which is, what an amazing place for a business like this. You have all the rooms, you have all the bathrooms, it's perfect.
Yeah.
But that didn't seem to last very long because I think you outgrew it very quickly.
So we were on 10th Street, and that's where, when I came back again, it was Howard, Tom, my mother, Jane, and a Packer, and we were in that little warehouse, and it all keeps coming back to the customer. I didn't want to be out of stock of anything. I hate, the worst thing I could see is an order come in, a customer wanting something with us not having it. So 2 things. I had to figure out how to get financing to help us be able to buy the goods. Then you got some place to put them. And you got to stay organized to some extent, and there's no substitute for space. So I talked to the guy we're leasing from. Hey, we're good for the money. Can you build an addition? So we built an addition on that 10th Street property, and it was as much as his land would build. And we outgrew that. I mean, by the time he was done building the thing, and I remember when he put the door in wrong. It was supposed to be 12 wide and 14 high. He was like 8 wide and 14 tall. It was like, who orders a door like this? It was the skinniest thing. Anyway, I remember unloading these containers. It was our first container from China. First one out in the back alley where I have to bring all this stuff in. And by the time it was in, we're like, we can't live. We can't even operate here, But it took so long to build, construction, and so, I started looking at real estate, and there's not a lot of real estate in Anniston, and I didn't want to build new because I just had gone through, even though it was the landlord doing the construction, I was involved in seeing it all and the delays, and I was like, I don't have time for this.
Right.
I need a place.
And you're running a business.
Yeah. So Sacred Heart Elementary School, they moved locations, and there's this school sitting up on a hill that was available. Like, here we go. Here's square footage. And so we moved into it. And moving was...
It's the worst, isn't it?
Oh.
I'd rather move my house 1,000 times than my business.
Oh.
And the last 3 times we moved our business, we swore we would never, ever do it again.
And you stay open, you can't be closed for a day.
Exactly.
You do things in the nights and the weekends. Oh, and there's stuff, inevitably you're caught in between, and some products where you don't want it. And anyway, so yeah, that's a process. And so we're at Sacred Heart, and then we had to add on to it. We built this addition, had loading docks and the whole thing on the school. And then I remember we bought 12 containers and just put them out there to store extra bags and things that could handle a unclimatized zone out there. And I was finally, we can't stay here.
Alex, growth may not have been on your mind.
It wasn't.
But you didn't even fit in a school anymore. So it's
all
amazing.
And again, it was just those stepping stones. The customer now came to you for this product, and word would spread to one of their friends in the industry, and now they wanted the same product, and so you'd have to get more of that product. And so the bin location you had before, now to accommodate this demand, you couldn't do it, and so you had to keep expanding, and it was all customer driven.
Yeah.
Simple as that. I mean, I never was like, oh, we're going to go build this, and no, it was just, I'd never want to be out of something. Anna sends an order, Dixie sends an order, she wants a dozen something, I want to have at least a dozen sitting there, whatever that is.
And we appreciate that.
Because I look at it as you're counting on me to run your business. You don't want to warehouse stuff. That's not your business. My business is to have it when you need it. I'm guessing most of the time, but with enough information and data, you can... And
being computerized, you can actually track what your inventory is doing.
Absolutely.
And so,
No, that helped.
Yeah, makes a huge difference.
Before it was all memory banks. It's just like, I think we need a dozen of these. Yeah, so true.
So here we are today. This is the home of the East Coast Howard Corps as we know it today. So what does a company do when they outgrow a school? Well, they actually buy part of a military base. Now, we're not all lucky enough to live somewhere where there's great swaths of military land available to us, but luckily enough it happened for them in Anniston. This was the old Fort McClellan base, and now they have plenty of room to spread out. I think the future growth here is unlimited, and it's going to be really great to see what they do. Don't forget, they do have a West Coast facility also. My personal travel budget does not allow me to go and video there for the sake of this. Maybe next time. And if you have a chance to go out to California, go visit that facility. It's really amazing. But now let's go sit and talk to Alex a little bit more. Let's talk about what he sees as the future of the music business, the changes he's seen in our industry, and maybe some advice he has for new business owners in the music industry. So, and you know, it's interesting because when the school ended up not working out, before you knew it, there was a military base. And it's just, so this place I will tell you is amazing because it looks like you could grow for 1,000 years and have enough space. There's no substitute for space.
I think we're done.
I hope you're done.
So in 1999, there were a round of base closures all over the country. And Fort McClellan, which is where we're sitting, was called the showplace of the South. It was phenomenal. When the base closed, this economy suffered here.
I can
locally,
imagine.
very big, because it was by far the biggest employer, and you know, it just had all the auxiliary effects. So anyway, this thing, when I say this thing, these buildings were transferred over to something called the JPA, Joint Powers Authority, city, state, and federal government. Just getting title insurance on these buildings was unbelievable process.
Really? Because I would have thought that they were so desperate to make good use of the property that it would have been a piece of cake.
They were desperate to do that, absolutely. But getting the conveyance and the title and all that, and you have all the different government entities, my documents were like this thick. And I'm not joking. I remember I had to take these papers to China with me. I was traveling on a buying trip, and I'm going through these things in the middle of the night because I got jet lag or whatever, and I'm not sleeping well, and I was going through these papers. Oh, what am I getting into? What am I getting into? Because there's just so much that happened out here. There are all these disclaimers and all. But anyway, yeah, so not all buildings were built in 1938. The one we're sitting in was actually a bowling alley. And we didn't get, this was the last building we acquired, just as an extra space and all. And yeah, a lot of uses. It was just a whole functioning city.
Well, you know, I'm glad that you grew that much because I think you needed it in part to house your staff. Because I will tell you, that's another place that I saw you may not have been intending the growth, but you went from, I always saw 4 of you guys or 5 of you guys.
Sure.
And but the catalog right now, which is how many years has it been out, has like 65 employees pictured in it.
Oh,
how many employees do you have now?
You know, in that zone of the 60 is, you know.
So this is actually what I want to know about employees and staff.
Yeah.
Because when there was 4 or 5 of you, even if you weren't blood related, you were family. And especially you guys, you know, decades and decades. How is it when you start introducing new people in? How was it to manage all the new employees?
Yeah, with each evolution of the company, different challenges present themselves. And quite frankly, there are things I do now as a business owner that I wish I didn't. These are things I don't enjoy as much as picking orders and taking care of the customer. Now I'm dealing with issues that aren't as pleasant and are as enjoyable. And so that's one of the bigger challenges with any growth is change of responsibility and all. Keeping that culture though of family, somehow it has worked. I think it's just that core group of people, and it's not like we went out and hired a bunch of people in one day. It was all a slow step, and everyone kind of assimilated with each other. And yeah, we've tried certainly. I've tried to keep that focus, and I feel like it's still there.
I feel like it's still there, and I was talking on the phone the other day to Colin, one of your employees,
Sure.
and I was asking him, you know, what's it been like for the years you've been here, and he said, without prompting, it still feels like a small family business, and he loved that, and I just thought how great that is.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
I mean, I never want to lose that. That is really a core value of us, and I think that our customer base, you know, for the most part is, you know, family operated. You know, yes, there are some chains that are bigger and things like that, but they still keep that, usually in most cases, family appeal. So it's our industry too. You know, it's not just unique to Howard Core. It's where we exist.
It is, but that's the feeling that Howard Core Company has generated and has always existed. And that's a testament to Howard, to Myrna, to you, to Jane, to Tom.
To everyone involved.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really, really cool.
Well,
A bit about another aspect of business, my favorite thing.
Okay.
And it's something I actually don't think I've seen you guys do much throughout the years, and that's marketing and advertising. Is it part of your thing?
Part of our business plan?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So, it's not.
It's not.
It has been, if I just go back to the way it all started, at least for me, jump into this company, I'm learning, I want to take care of the customer, but we grew. And we're just doing this year after year, and it's not, again, it wasn't because I wanted to grow, just because that's what happens when you take care of the customer. And so I never wanted to keep growing. I mean, that really was not what I wanted to do. And then marketing is about growth, I think.
Definitely.
And I think that every business is different. From my perspective, the way our industry was or is, at least it used to be, and I like to think it still is, there's a lot of word of mouth, and it's a community, you know. And so if someone opens up a shop, pick a town anywhere in the country, they probably know someone that has a shop somewhere else in the country. And they're going to ask them, hey, you know, what do you do for this? What do you do for this? If you're taking care of this person that already is existing, you're getting a referral.
Yeah.
And I never really thought about it, but over the years, it's like that. I'd rather put all our resources, money into having the product, giving great service, taking care of everyone's need, than money into marketing to get new people that I don't even know. And that I don't even know if they exist. I mean, that was you can tell me I'm crazy to not go down the other path, but that just seemed like it worked.
Well, it's fascinating because it goes against pretty much all business teachings out there, you know. And
absolutely,
But you can't argue with what has happened here. It has worked beautifully for you. I do have to go back to that sentence you just said, that growth really wasn't your motivating factor. It was a byproduct of how you did business.
Totally a byproduct.
That right there, I think first of all, I think you should write a business book in all your free time. And you know, one chapter is going to be called "There's No Substitute for Space,"
I like that.
But the other could be called "Growth is a Byproduct," because that right there is something I think a lot of us miss when we're starting to learn to build our businesses. That if you do, you know, if you build it, they will come.
Sure.
You have to say, if you build it and do the right thing, they will come.
You take care of the teacher at this school, and that next student comes in and they're asking, where should I go? There's your referral, you know? I mean, that's just the most basic of situations, but is there a place for Facebook advertising and all that? There absolutely
I was going to say,
this industry, to this day, I still don't do social media. So I'm the worst.
I was going to ask you, don't have a Facebook page.
I have an email address and I have a phone number.
Do you know how hard it is to research somebody with no Facebook page, no Instagram?
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
We won't be seeing the Howard Core Company on Instagram anytime soon.
You know what? Maybe later this week.
Okay.
It's only Monday, right?
It's only Monday.
So,
you have a free hour tomorrow.
That's
you can
it.
jump into
That's
that
it.
then.
The day has to come. I mean, computers, we were probably one of the last, in this type of industry, we're probably one of the last to computerize. We're probably one of the last to go down that path, but will we get, never say never. That's
you never know, but you haven't needed it, so that's...
You know, maybe it helps to reinforce things. Maybe it helps our customer. There's probably things we could do that would help them. But on the other hand, you know, we've not really been about building our brand, even though we've had customers. The reason we have Howard Core branded items because customers wanted that. It wasn't because I wanted it. It's because people said, I need to be able to market something to my customer. Can you know, the Howard Core brand. And so that is an area where marketing helps our customers.
That's true. When did you guys start doing private labeling?
I don't remember, each product had a different timeline. Instruments, I always had to have a label. And so from the very beginning we would have a label, but it was very a hodgepodge. It was a uniform approach. And that's where I remember somewhere in the 90s, late 90s, people saying, if you had a Howard Core brand that I could, promote, that would help me. It's like, okay, that makes sense. But it used to be that people wanted their own brands,
right.
and they still do. Now we do a ton of customization for our customers with their name. That's what it's all about, is building their business. Mm-hmm. But if they want something they don't want their name attached to, that's where we come in and use our name. But it wasn't because I wanted to brand our name and conquer the world, so to speak, with our brand. It's just to help our customer succeed in their market.
It just happened.
Yeah.
Gotcha. It makes sense. I want to go back and say one more thing really quickly about the social media thing. The very best use of social media for business is not for selling, it's for connecting. But listening to you talk, you're already doing all the connecting. So that's why you don't need it.
But there's things keep evolving, and so I'm sure we need to go down that path.
Well, you can call me if anytime. I'll help you out because we do all that kind of stuff.
I know where to go. Thank you.
So we do need to kind of wrap things up, but I actually want to talk about if somebody came in and gave you $1 million and said, be a consultant for my business. I want to start a music business. What are some advice you would give new business owners?
Sure.
Because that's different from existing
Personally,
business owners.
I do say, keep that, I don't know about $1 million, keep every dime away, don't give it to me.
You're going to need it to buy inventory.
You're going to need that for your customers. No, I mean, for a new business starting in our industry, we've seen over the years companies start up, and for the vast majority they succeed. And so I think back to what are those traits that were common throughout, and I think it always has started with a passion. Almost everyone that starts a violin shop or a music store comes from that background, and it's something they enjoy and truly have a passion for. And I think that will carry you so far. But from a business plan perspective, I think having some repeatable income from the beginning, whether it be teaching, repairs, some combination of that's just a stable source of revenue as you grow other aspects of the business.
Maybe a rental program?
Well, with the teaching starts that rental program, which, thank you for bringing that up, because that to me is the next. I don't know if you can just open up and say, hey, I'm starting rentals without some teaching aspect, or just, you can, absolutely you can, but I see it often happening. You've already got the traffic coming in, and you just have that add-on. But the rental business has been many companies' savior over the years.
Yes, it has.
Through thick and thin, sales, whatever it may be, if you've got that stable rental business, it's phenomenal. And if you can build that, you've really got an anchor to along with repairs, along with teaching. Those are just those nice revenue sources, and then you can get into sales and all that kind of good stuff as reputations grow and inventory grows.
There are a lot of us that believe that our rental program is going to be the difference in this time of COVID that has helped keep us in business.
Absolutely.
When so many other places are struggling. So
the challenge, of course, for all of us and for our industry is during this period is the rental business is down across the board all over the country. And I've heard it, the best I've heard was last week, this is Monday, yes, last week, someone said, I think I might get to 60% of my rentals. The number I've been hearing was, I hope to get to 50. And I've heard that so many places, different regions of the country. 50 was kind of the optimum, and I heard a 60. I was like, all right, that's how it begins, just optimism, just kind of little little ticks. I mean, we're just having to absorb this. I'm very nervous. I was speaking with Dixie earlier today about what do we feel is going to happen this year, and we're just so nervous of us missing an entire year of new recruits, and how does that affect our industry? School programs have always been one of the first things to go.
Tentative, yes, tenuous.
When the finances get tight, they've got to cut programs, and that's always been an issue. Strong programs probably will make it through, but we're probably going to lose some programs that may take some time to get back. So we've got this setback that we just have to adjust to.
It's the business conversation we've been having a lot in our shop, and I know a lot of other places have been, and that's that where I live, our programs are huge and very strong. However, the forecast numbers are much lower in next year and in the year after. So they're talking about losing teaching positions. They're not concerned really about losing the entire program. But I mean, it does it for all of us. And so, we have been discussing ways that we need to reinvent ourselves, expand, and your advice for finding sources of just a constant stream of income. That's great business advice.
I do. I've seen that succeed, time and time again.
Have you seen the music industry change in the last 35 or 40 years?
Oh my goodness.
It's not a trick question. I mean, like.
I don't think I mentioned this, but one of the most appealing aspects to me when I decided to sign on the dotted line with Howard and leave the West, leave all the craziness, travel in the world and all that stuff.
The diamonds and the helicopters.
Yeah.
Private planes.
And to come back to Anniston was just the stability. I mean, look at this violin. The product hasn't changed over eons. 300 plus years. It's the same basic instrument. The materials are the same. Everything was the same. And I think the day I signed was the day this industry took a massive shift. This was '94, and again, I knew Howard. I remember going with him as a kid, going to Europe multiple times a year, buying trip. Everything was European based. Domestic manufacturers, European manufacturing. The day I signed, for whatever reason, China emerged. I mean, it just started. And so now I had the pleasure of going to Europe, now over this direction. And I love both. It's just a lot of travel.
A lot of travel.
And still trying to do the business here and having to go to all the conventions and get out and see the customers. And so travel became a real commitment. And so again, with change comes opportunity. And we were a very small company. Many of our big competitors were very ingrained in European supply chains that now had to adjust to the Chinese manufacturing. And anyway, to answer your question, that was one of the big ones, just where the manufacturing happened. But through that, late 90s, I remember 50 and 10 was the discount. 50 off, maybe 50 and 10, for a dominant string. And then I could name some names, but I mean, my customers can buy it here cheaper than I can buy it from you. And so then the World Wide Web came around, and so the internet came around, and the pricing competition and all of that insanity. Every industry's had to adjust to that, but music industry felt like it was sheltered from things, but no. It's become a very competitive, very price sensitive situation, especially for accessories. But instruments and cases, and I guess bows all across the board, those items, quality still has a major impact, and pricing is not such an important piece.
Quality is everything, and that's something that we take a lot of business classes because we come at this just from a musical background, and we want to learn and be excellent. And one of the things we were taught is the race to the lowest price is the race to the bottom every time, and no one wants to be there. And so if you can find a way to be fair, but still hold on to that quality, that's the magic ticket as far as I'm concerned. So.
I 100% agree, and I'll go back to your question about that business owner that had that $1 million and wanted my advice. I left out a very critical piece, and you just reminded me. Quality. If you're going to open a shop, and you are going to do the rental business, which we highly recommend,
Yes.
assuming that your marketplace can support it, go for quality. I was just talking to Tom the other day about someone that they were trying to do the rental business, they wanted the cheapest bridge.
Oh,
Like, no.
no.
Look, you can save 60 cents by getting the cheapest bridge, but please don't. Give that, the rental business, the rental instrument is the backbone and the foundation of our entire industry. Give the children a chance with a good playing instrument.
Yeah.
Something that is playable, not the opposite. And so give them the best resources so they can, because it's hard enough to learn to play violin or cello. These are difficult instruments, and so give them every benefit and opportunity, and don't go down that price point trying to be the cheapest.
Yeah, no, I had
Quality.
to tell you, the other day I was looking at some of our rental instruments, and this is my favorite moment when it happens from time to time. You open a case, and it's the Howard Core, made in Czechoslovakia, the little blue foil. So we've probably had that
Wow.
instrument in our rental program for 20 years maybe.
It may have paid for itself.
I think it may have a few times, but it only did that for two ways, because it was quality when we got it to begin with, and because thank goodness the kids that did have that took good care of it. Nobody sat on it, But but yeah, that's great advice for anyone starting out. The quality is worth the extra money. It's definitely.
Yeah, and to have a product in your rental fleet that just year after year, yes, you repair it and you fix it up each season, but gosh,
Yeah.
it's a war where it just
If you can hold it up and say this has made me $2,300,
right.
that's
What a
something to be said.
Phenomenal investment.
Yes, phenomenal, definitely.
Yeah.
So tell me what the future holds right now. Are you guys just hunkered down trying to get through COVID? Do you have some plans for any more growth? Please tell me you're not moving again.
There's no plans for move. I did acquire some buildings January, the month before,
Right before
it all
everything,
happened, just in case, again, and if the price was right. The opportunity, the buildings right next to our buildings. I've been waiting for that opportunity, and you just have to jump when you can. But no big plans. Just the word hunker down. It is unfortunate right now that we can't be looking. Almost always we're looking years out. That timeline now has been backed, and we're really having to look at daily activity, weekly activity, monthly activity, and adjust. So we're in a process right now that's, I think, every business is going through. You just can't be looking too far out. There are too many variables. You can, and I certainly, from time to time you do, but you don't spend a lot of time, because what may happen between here and there's so many variables that I do think you start to waste your time.
And that in itself is fantastic business advice in general. Just because something has worked for you for 20 years doesn't mean that you do it this year. Be flexible, learn from what's going on around you.
Absolutely.
So, and yeah, you guys do that beautifully. So.
No, we're completely in a day-by-day adjust mode, and it's going to be that way for a little while longer.
Well, I just want to say how much I appreciate your openness, because a lot of people out there will build a business and be successful and do great things, but then they want to pull up the ladder. They're like, oh, no, I don't want to give away my secrets,
No secrets.
So thank you for being so open and helping just telling everybody the ways you deal with employees and marketing and growth and transition and
Or
all
don't.
that kind of stuff. Or don't. Exactly.
Sorry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Your story is fascinating, and I just feel really, really blessed to get a chance to interview and hear about it. So thank you.
Right back to you. It's so enjoyable.
So I hope that you have actually enjoyed this as much as I have. Getting to learn about this 40-plus-year-old business and how they've grown from something in a small house to here where we are right now, an Army base in Alabama. It's been a great story, and I hope you learned as much as I did. I don't know about you, but I am really excited to see who we get to feature next year for the VSA convention and their new business-to-business segment. I'd like to just give a really special thank you to VSA and to the board. Not only have you helped us all hone our skills as luthiers throughout the years, but now you're helping us build our business and be successful in this industry. and helping us all support each other as we grow and move to the future. Thanks again.